嗯，对，慢慢调，
没尝得到，尝水，
调那个，就是这边，
差不多
那个是，
那不是，
嗯
我先给出了。
嗯。
they've been quite dramatic. Between 5 and 10 years have been added to life expectancy at birth over that relatively short period of time. That's again on a backdrop of worldwide life expectancy going up by 5 hours per day. So if you'd asked me the question yesterday and compared with today, it's 5 hours on average in the world life expectancy has gone up. So it's dramatic changes. Within the UK, that 5-10 years, where you are in that 5-10 years depends on several things. First of all, gender, secondly, ethnicity, and thirdly, socioeconomic situation. And there's quite marked changes in some of those. Within that, the most interesting thing I think for the last 30 years, compared with earlier in the 20th century, is that much of that additional life expectancy is within old age. So actually it's, if you look at 65-year-olds and say, right, how has their life expectancy changed? What we see is a major difference. So now it's over 20 years, both for men and women, more for women than for men from the age of 65. So in other words, into the mid-late 80s is the life expectancy once you actually hit 65. Now within that, women have a greater life expectancy than men, and their increase in the last 20 years has been slightly greater, only marginally greater. But there are differences within that. What everybody's concerned about, of course, is are these extra years of life with health or without health? And so there's been quite a lot of epidemiological work looking at trying to split that additional life expectancy into the bit that's healthy life expectancy, with no reported long-term conditions or disabilities, and in particular no reported disabilities, or so-called disability life expectancy. And of the additional years we've had in the last 20 or 30 years, about on average half of that addition is with healthy life expectancy and the other half is with some disability. That's life affecting, not necessarily major, but some disability that affects life. Women have done worse than men in that regard. Rather more than 50% of their additional years are associated with disability. So the spectre then in old age is of people living longer, people living some of that extra years with disability, more so if you're a woman. Now, going back to the increase over the last 25 years and looking at that particular relationship between total and healthy life expectancy, there's been a divergence based on socioeconomic background, so that the differences in healthy life expectancy in old age are getting bigger, not smaller. And that's clearly a major factor. So it's a mixed picture, on the whole a very good picture, and happening it's the older population getting older rather than more people, as it were, graduating into old age.
شو مني رجعت؟ ايش؟
تحبي تريني يا دوب حطيتها بتمه بلشت تجلس.
زينة؟
هاي البرجر بس يا دوب حطيتها بتمه مسات مصفى منها بلشت تجلس.
خدونا اليوم؟
أخذتهم بكير لأنه بس ما ارتحت لسه في الحمد.
شو ريحة؟ ريحة كورونا يعني؟
رجعت
كنت تاكلوا شو قررتوا بعدين؟
أنا ما بدي آكل.
شوف شو بدهم يعني شو بعمل؟
أروح بس أقول لهم برا كثير شو ما كان.
شو؟ حولك مصاري يعني؟ شو؟
أنتي شو بدك؟
أوفر معي. رودي شو بتاكل؟
رودي قال أكلت. رودي خلصت الطبخ؟
يا خلص.
ليش عم لهيك أنا بكون؟ ما في وقت شغال لما لا؟
لا شغال شو اسمه لأنه هذا عدة موديلات 6 موديل أول.
يعني له وقت ولا ما له وقت؟
بس تخلص محاضرة في أسئلة عليها، خلص الموديل الثاني هيك حتخلص الموديل الرابع.
إيه قال بدك بابا شو بدك تاكل؟ بجيب أكل. ليش شوفها؟ عشان يكون هذا البنطلون هيك
مشكلة مريح
طبعا ناري.
وصل لهم.
كيف مبين راح يوصل لتحت. أخذته من قسم الرجالي. ترجع بالك؟ اسكتي
مرت
في مرحلة جننتيني فيها. نسينا قسم النسوان صرنا ندور قسم الرجالي بس. ما يطلع هذا.
من زمان عم يطلع.
الآن هلا حلوة ولا على مسخنة؟
لا أنا عم نسخن.
ما أنت وأنت
أهون.
طب مع هون؟
لا
لسه بيت علقة
بس فاطمة ما تبرع الآن؟ هي علقة.
أنتوا بلشتوا الموضوع ما حكيت شيء أنا.
يلا قولي لنا شو بدك تاكلي. أنا ما بدي آكل فما أقترح ولا أقترح. أنتوا اقترحوا.
تمشي شغلة خفيفة. بدي
شغلة
شغلة
خفيفة
خفيفة.
شوي يا روحي. شغلة خفيفة شوي. إذا بكير أكلت خبز وجبنة. أنا امبارح بس ارتحت. أكلت ملوخية انذبحت. يا ريتني ما أكلت. هي امبارح بس كنت مرتاحة.
أنا حاسة في شيء عم يصير بجسمي تعرف تعمل تحليل الماء. أنا حاسة الأبني ما له دخل.
لا ما بدي أخذت له ذنبك نفس الشيء صار. كنت وقفت له ذنبك ورجعت آكل طبيب وعالي وما في مشكلة. لا الحمد لله.
جسمي عم like rejecting it.
لا وإبراهيم
يكون أنت
كل شيء كل وقت بدنا نروح بس
نسيت شو المطعم.
روحي افتحي التطبيقات ودوري. هلا قمر إذا قلت له بقول لك شغلة. هقول لك بس حاولي تنقي شيء هيك سعره حلو.
اللي جاب
وش فحص والله فحص. طيب شو كذا هي
اه بعد بدك تقول لي خليكي مع انا وين خليكي عم بقى
I think it's this year that it's dawned on me, really dawned on me, that my mum is 80 and she's slowed down.
I'm not 80 yet.
Whatever. This is the woman. this is the woman that when we were shopping, hurry up, Bridget, come on, walk up quicker. And then I used to say that to her, and it's now I'm realising actually, Bridget, she's 79. What one shopping trip that should take 45 minutes to an hour could take all 2 hours.
Because I've got the pain in my hip. And when I walk, I'm always tired, and I have to walk and rest. But it's getting worse now. I don't know, I'm coward to go out because I'm afraid if I might fall down.
You want more confidence in yourself, yeah. I went to the garden centre at Melbourne once on my own, and I had to come back. I couldn't go in. I couldn't stay in. And all I wanted to do was have a look round, but I'd lost all the confidence. It's like crossing the street as well. You need more confidence to cross the street because you keep looking.
Yeah, when he goes over his neighbours, Ken, over the road,
He walks me back.
Ken walks him back over the road because it is a busy road.
Oh, it's busy.
The more Dad thinks about his leg, he's worried it's going to give way. I don't think it would, but he's worried it is going to. So of course,
yeah, it's
that
a worry
makes him
there.
lose his confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
Worries him. Do you think that you're frail?
I don't think so. Am I? I don't think not that. I'm not. Well, it all depends where the frail what's name comes in. Yeah. Is this when you pick these up and you become frail?
Well, that's if you think that. Do you think that? You don't think of yourself as frail?
I don't think so. I think it's assistance really, but
yeah,
I don't think it's anything to do with frail. But I don't know. When do you become frail? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'd prefer to be back 10 years ago than I am now. Because I could get out and about, I could get the bus to town and anything, you know, but I don't know, I think it was a lot easier then. I could get out and about, which I appreciated. They want me to try and get a wheelchair, but I don't feel as if I'm ready for it yet. I certainly don't. I don't know what it is, why it is that I just don't want to be pushed by my husband.
She doesn't feel that she wants to be known as an old lady.
Oh, no.
You're only 78.
I know.
79 in October.
That age concern, it's only around the corner, it's on the parade, but I won't go in there. That's what it signifies. I'm getting old and I don't want to.
Wouldn't like to get to that point.
Yeah.
And so what is it that scares you about that?
Getting old.
Not being able to do things for yourself.
Yes, getting old.
But you can't stop Father Time, can you?
So when we talk about frailty, there's widely accepted two models of frailty, one being a phenotype, one being a accumulation of deficit model. The phenotype was described by Freed and consisted of 5 characteristics. Weight loss, about 5, well I think she described 10 pounds in America, but about 5 kilograms in weight or 5% of your body weight. Exhaustion as defined by an answer of most of the time or moderate amount of the time to everything seems to be an effort or I can't just be bothered. Physical activity as measured by an algorithm of weekly activity levels and how much energy expenditure. A timed walk of approximately 15 feet adjusted for height and grip strength adjusted to BMI. If you score, as you can see there, more than 3 of these, you're considered frail. So the importance of this, when it was looked into during the cardiovascular health study, is that if you have frailty, you have an increased 3-year and 7-year hazard ratio for adverse outcomes including falls, disability, hospitalisation and death. The accumulated deficit model is really just that. It's an accumulation of either signs, symptoms or disease processes that predispose you to adverse health outcomes. The combination of the deficits or problems that you encounter results in a frailty index, and this can give you an idea of just how frail somebody is. The benefit of the accumulated deficits model is that not only can it give you a grading of severity of frailty, but it can also identify issues that can be modified.
So 5 years ago, the UK government identified loneliness as one of the greatest public health issues of our time. And we know that while everyone feels lonely from time to time, feeling lonely often or always isn't good for us. And most importantly, it can often be prevented. So loneliness, just to go back to the basics, is a subjective, unwelcome feeling of a lack or loss of companionship. And it happens when there's a mismatch between the quality and quantity of social relationships that we have and those that we want. It's different from social isolation, which is more objective and is about a lack of social contacts and not having people to interact with regularly. But they are often connected. At the Red Cross, we're often helping people who have experienced prolonged and unwanted isolation and are now chronically lonely as a result. But we've also helped people who have felt lonely and then over time detached more and more from others. When you think about the scale and the impact of loneliness, it's really not surprising that governments and statutory bodies around the world are increasingly recognising that we need to do more to address it. So millions of people, actually of all ages and from all backgrounds, feel lonely always or often. And this can be devastating for individuals, their friends and families, communities, and our public services. Only 3% of people who feel regularly lonely feel like life is worth living. And there is also a wealth of evidence to show that loneliness isn't good for our health, our well-being, or our productivity. Feeling lonely often has been linked to an increased range of health conditions, Alzheimer's, stroke, sleep problems, depression, the list really does go on and on. People who are often lonely have lower self-esteem, are more likely to attend A&E and their GP, stay in local authority residential funded care, are more likely to perform poorly at school and at work, be unemployed and struggle with mental health. And at the British Red Cross, our 150 years experience delivering frontline services in and after emergencies tells us that connected individuals and connected communities are much more resilient. So it is often the loneliest and the most isolated people who are the least able to cope and recover from crises. While we know that anyone can be lonely, we know that significant life transitions and events can be key triggers for loneliness. Retirement, the onset of a long-term health condition, bereavement, starting or stopping caring for somebody. The barriers to meaningful connections during these moments are both practical and emotional. These sorts of major life events can change someone's sense of who they are and what their role is in life. And that can make it really difficult to connect with people in a meaningful way. We know that discrimination, being bullied and feeling as though you don't belong can also often lead to loneliness. And worryingly, people living on no or low income and in the most deprived areas in the country are at particular risk of loneliness. And because of this, we're concerned the cost of living crisis is set to make loneliness even worse across our communities.
I've been working in the sector for volunteering and working for probably about 30 years now. I started off in mental health. I did some support work in women's refuges and then moved into older people's services and community development. And I've been with Royal Voluntary Service over 20 years now, working through about 12 different roles with the charity. And I'm currently responsible for our quite broad and varied service portfolio, from working on army bases to helping people with discharge, patient transport, working in homes, dementia services, and then community services and our retail portfolio as well. So quite a broad remit. I think for us in Royal Voluntary Service, we see it absolutely as a public health issue, and that's because it causes poor health, premature mortality. There's very good and compelling evidence. As an example, the British Medical Journal state that there are significant links between poor social connections and loneliness to poor brain and heart health. It can also lower people's cognitive function, and that leads to risk of dementia. There's increasing risks around cardiovascular disease, risks of stroke, and also mental health problems such as depression and anxiety. People without making those social connections, and I think probably most people have experienced it at some point, you can feel lonely even if you're in a crowded room, if you're not making those social connections and those interactions. So a lot of people will suffer poor mental health as a result. I mean, it's an increasing issue. So the ONS is saying that really there's been an increase year on year since 2016-17. And so it's quite a widespread issue. And of course, that means we need more capacity in our services to help and support. And our statutory services, our health and care systems, are not going to be able to do it in isolation. So I think what the VSC organisations are offering is volunteer support, but with a specific focus on prevention or reablement, supporting people to either have the opportunities, the environment to make those social connections, or helping them to actually even get to places where they can make social connections. Quite a lot of the sector's services also focus on things like physical activity, nutrition and hydration, those kind of underpinning well-being focuses. And also, where appropriate, offering volunteer opportunities. There's a lot of research that shows that it does increase your mental and physical well-being. Having a social connection is vital, but building those social networks, having a sense of purpose, feeling valued, it helps people build their own personal resilience and how they look after themselves and also look after and interact with the people around them.
So we know that people living with frailty are at particular risk of loneliness, and that loneliness can also make frailty worse, and even that loneliness can increase the risk of developing frailty in the first place. For example, lonely people are more likely to be inactive, and such inactivity increases the risk of physical frailty. Drivers of loneliness take place at multiple levels, and it's important to understand those different drivers in order to identify solutions. So at an individual level, someone's sense of self, health, income, energy, confidence, emotions, and habits can all impact our connections. We also know that features of UK society can play a role. So social and cultural norms, for example, the perceived inappropriateness of talking to strangers or the perceived stigma of loneliness. We know that communities are often becoming more closed off, and that's having an impact, as is the rise of digital and online engagement, particularly for some groups. But at a community level, a lack of available and accessible and affordable social activities and social spaces can contribute to loneliness, as can difficulties accessing statutory services and support, and things like inadequate transport infrastructure. We know that if people cannot access preventative or rehabilitative support, whether that's specialist support or practical or emotional support, their needs are likely to escalate, which can then escalate people's experience of loneliness and frailty, and then, of course, lead to other problems. None of this is good for individuals, and it's not good for our public services either. So I think the VCS organisations are often, not always, overlooked in kind of all stages of supporting people, so in planning, strategy, policy and service design processes. And this is despite the fact that many VCS organisations have particularly strong links into communities, but also insights into people who are experiencing some of the greatest health inequalities. We also have a really good idea about what actually is going to work in practice, and often those solutions are really simple. Beyond that, we're great service delivery partners. We're relatively cheap, we're flexible, and totally dedicated to improving people's lives in a really personalised way. In particular, I think NHS social prescribing schemes need to heavily rely on VCS organisations, and that's to provide the advice, support and activities which will enable people in those schemes to connect. So we provide the support that link workers often link people into, and of course we also provide link working support as well. It is, however, important to note that the VCS sector is really vast and varied. So I'd encourage anyone working for the NHS to look into the organisations in their local area, reach out and get to know the various teams and the various service offers. And spending time doing this can really pay off, as VCS organisations really are kind of best placed to help people with their wider non-clinical needs, such as loneliness and isolation, but not exclusive to those needs. And we're really good at helping people, no matter their situation, to overcome barriers to living really fulfilling and good, healthy, productive lives. I think the VCS is often particularly well placed to help improve ways of delivering services in a way which is accessible to everybody. We're good at helping meeting people's non-clinical needs, which we know in turn reduces people's clinical needs too. And we're also really good at ensuring health and care decision makers hear the views of communities which experience the greatest health inequalities, which in reality are often left out of these important conversations.
الصدفة عجبا هذا
تعالكم شو ترجمتها هاي؟
ترجمة لا فحص تجربة.
Which of the following is least appropriate for addressing Sandra loneliness؟ شو is least يعني أقل شيء؟
يعني أقل شيء
ممكن يعملها إنه مكتئبة أو حزينة أو وحيدة.
أقول لك إنه أي وحدة من هذول اللي تحت إنه أقل شيء ملائم for addressing إنك توضح أو إنه الإحساس الشعور الوحدة.
هي ملائم يعني؟
least appropriate أقل شيء ملائم.
أقل شيء ملائم. طيب identification of loneliness with screening. For example, you see 3 items loneliness scale. Refer to local voluntary group which can provide support for loneliness. Prescription of diazepam to help with social anxiety. أصلا إذا أخذت أدوية المنوم بصير عزلة أكتر صح؟ Manage long-term health issues that limit dependence. علاج الطويل long term health issues that limit independence بيعيقها من الاستقلالية.
يعني إنه
هذا هو.
عم أقول لك شو أقل شيء يعني إذا أكتر يعني أقل شيء من هدول اللي عطوك إياهم إنه أقل شيء بيأثر من ناحية إنه يساعدها addressing
loneliness شو بتساعدها بدخلها
عم أقول شفت ال following هدول اللي أنت قريتهم بقول لك which of them يعني أي واحد منهم is the least appropriate أقل واحد ملائم for addressing إنك يعني تعبر فهمت علي؟ Sandra's loneliness إحساس loneliness عن ساندرا.
أنا ما أعرف. نعطيها دواء اللي بيخليها تنام مضاد القلق ولا لونج تيرم، لأنه هذا كله مانجمنت هذا تقييم ريفيرال هذا كلها احنا مهتمين أكثر. أما إذا أعطينا دواء ونيمناها
هذا أقل شيء.
طيب
إيش ثاني؟
وين هذا؟ All therapy is referred to your clinic. How is functional ability affected in frailty? Minor illness lead to the ability of هون ايه which best describe the term intrinsic capacity, the ability to meet basic needs, learn, grow and make decisions.
معلش الكلمتين ما واضحة
هنا the ability to meet اسمها intrinsic capacity أو سموها المقدرة الذاتية أو الداخلية. The ability to meet basic needs learn, grow, need, make decision. فينا تتعلم، فينا أن تكبر، فينا أن تتابع القرارات الخاصة فيها. يعني شيء بعمل مقدرة ذاتية أو السلف يعني استقلالية. هو ال environmental factors within the home, community and or the society. العوامل البيئية يعني والمنزل والبيرسونال ريليشن والعلاقات نفسه والاتيتيود والفاليوز قيمه ولا mental and physical capabilities that person can draw on شو يعني يعبر عنها؟ لا هذا صح هذا هو صح يمكن لأنه عقل وجسم ايه طيب السبورسيس يمكن صح هيك ما بعرف خلي أقول فينيش شوف تطلع شو النتيجة ترى submit all يعني لسه ما طلعت نتيجة ما بنعرف إذا كان عملنا محاولة ثانية يلا خلينا نشوف تطلع submit or finish شو تحت إنه شو أخذت أنا هلا
8 من 10
خلص نجحت 8 من 10 الآن 8 من 10 هلا حضرت الكورس يعني دوب شفت فيديوهات وقريت كذا على السريع هون وين الغلط؟ هذا غلط هون بفرجيك غلط Fred phenotype model is an example of accumulated development هذا غلط هون the answer is incorrect وين correct لك؟ شايف ما بحط لك وين يا شيء نطلعها خلينا نشوف سناي كيس ماشي شوي هيك
هاي وحدة خطأ الثاني شو ثاني خطأ
mobility the following is as example of functional ability mobility هاي صحيح
طيب
correct كاتب لي correct
عملت صح
بس
إنه خلينا نشوف شو السؤال الثاني اللي جاوبته غلط
اوكي يلا شايف هاي مزبوطة هاي تبعت الجاسبان
أقل وحدة يعني
هاي شفتها هاي الكلمة هيك اتليست يعني هاي بتخليك انه شفتها هاي عندي مشكلة بالفهم اللغة فهم
انك ما بتحكيها بطريقة انك تحكيها كلغة انت بتحكيها كالفهم بس
infection ability minor illness lead to significant صحيح أي شغلة التهاب أو مرض خفيف تلاقي بهر واحد شو جاب كاسين معاه ولا شو؟
لا كأنه كان في كراسي على الطاولة أو شيء لا هذا لا شيء هلا أنا بلوم بالهاي وبعدين بس يخلص أبوك بيجيب لك
بس شيلك بهر صراحة شو تحت هاي
كانت على الطاولة هون هيك
خلاص المفروض بعدها بال90 سنة.
اوكي يعني ولا واحد من انا ساعدتك فيه.
اوكي. هي الاختيارات غريبة كانت. 90 سنة.